I'm your host, Chris Micieli, with another episode of the podcast dedicated to your Colorado Avalanche. And today we will be going over a few things. We'll be talking about these new uniforms that seem to be making their rounds. At least we have a preview video in cartoon form anyway. So we have that to get to. I have a listener email that threw out some pretty good questions that we'll answer. And the NHL also kind of threw out some possibilities for the next season and how maybe that could look, possibilities there. So first things first, follow the show on social media outlets, Twitter, LOPN_Avalanche. On Instagram, search Locked On Avalanche and send any questions, comments, concerns, opinions to lockedonavalanche@gmail.com, just like Jeremy did, which we will get to in the next segment. So the first thing I think everybody wants to discuss right now is the jersey situation. And Adidas put out a 1 minute trailer for what they're deeming the reverse retro jerseys, and these will in all likelihood be our third jerseys for the season. Now in the video, if you haven't seen it, like I said, it's only about a minute. When you see, there's just an image of a character walking kind of like away from you, and the colors of his jersey constantly change, and along with the jersey color changing is a number on his back, which signifies the year that particular color and team will reverse retro this year's colors to. So if that doesn't make any sense to you, we'll focus in on the Avalanche, and what we assume are the Avalanche colors is also connected with the number 79. So it's the 1979 Nordiques color scheme that's going to be the Avalanche retro uniforms for this year. And we had been teased this. We have known that the Avs are going to do something to, bring back the Nordiques, seeing as it's their 25th anniversary in Colorado. And they said this would be the first year that they really have done nothing when it comes to the Nordiques. But they said they would change that for this year. This seems to be that. We've gotten the Nathan MacKinnon Instagram post with the gloves. We got the Mikko Rantanen Instagram post with the pants, and this seems to slowly be coming together as a uniform. For me, I was, I was excited when I first saw it, and I still am. We're getting another Avalanche jersey to add to our collection and our closets. The image that they show that constantly changes colors. The outline of the jersey doesn't change at all. So it has kind of like, the main color, and it looks like on the shoulders, it has a certain color, and then there's stripes on the bottom. I can't imagine every single team is going to have the same look, and some have leaked already. I know Pittsburgh's has leaked and the Flyers has leaked, and minutes before I started recording, the Golden Knights had leaked, which I mean, they can't get too retro. They've only been around for a few years, but by those looks, it doesn't seem like the outline of every uniform is going to be the same. So, because when I first saw this, I was like, every team is going to have the same, like there's just two lines on the bottom, two lines on the sleeves, and we don't see the front. That is the big thing, is we just see the back with the number and the colors, and that's it. Now for the Avalanche, the main color is white. So it doesn't seem like we're going to get a dark third jersey in this reverse retro style. It seems like it's going to be a white jersey, Nordique blue numbers, and then the stripes and shoulder colors, whatever they might be, will be maroon. Now, if you're going 79 Nordiques or any Nordiques, you better be including the fleur-de-lis in there somewhere, because that's kind of like the staple for Nordique uniform. So I'm hoping they incorporate that somehow. Like I said, you don't see the front, so you don't know what logo they're going with. And I got a little upset when after time had passed and I really thought about it. I kind of got upset because it like this seems to be the Avalanche are getting lumped in here, like every other team is, into a bigger marketing thing. And that's not what I expected. I kind of thought the Avalanche were going to kind of do their own thing when it came to this year's third jersey, focusing in on the Nordiques and, bringing them back into the fold after 25 years. And it seems like it's just a bigger marketing scheme for Adidas, and everybody is involved. And when you got teams like whatever, like the original six, that's fine. Even if you want to say the Avalanche, bringing back the Nordiques is awesome. Those older teams, even if you were say like Carolina doing something with the Whalers, but you're also including Vegas. They don't have a lot of history to go retro for anything. So, I mean, look, okay, in the end, we're getting new Av sweaters, and I'm always up for that. Always up for that. But I was a little upset that these are part of a bigger marketing plan by Adidas, rather than the Avalanche franchise coming up with a design on their own. And with the help of Adidas, because Adidas did help them out with the Stadium Series jersey. I expect Adidas to be in on the design, but this is a league-wide thing. And does it lose its appeal a little bit? I don't want to go that far, but I just thought it would have been special for the Avalanche just to do something when it comes to retro, instead of all 31 teams doing it. If that makes sense. Doesn't take away my excitement for it. I love a new uniform. I love a new jersey. I'm definitely going to be buying a couple, I'm sure. But it kind of, after I thought about it for a little while, I was like, man, I really wish it was special just to the Avalanche. And that's just me, wanting the Avalanche to get just the notoriety. And once again, they're not going to get that because they have to share this moment with 30 other teams. What are you going to do? So I think they said mid-December. I don't know the exact date. I want to say in the teens somewhere, we'll get the full getup. So we'll see that logo. We'll see the jersey in full. Right now, we're just getting teases, which is to be expected. So you can rest assured we will definitely be talking about it when the entire thing is revealed or leaked. Maybe theirs will get leaked. Their Stadium Series jersey got leaked way ahead of time. And like I said, 3 of them that I know of are out now. All that have been confirmed, but we can pretty much assume that that's what they are. So if the Avs do, we'll be talking about it here. Right now, we are going to talk about Built Go, and we've talked about Built Go for a few weeks now. You'll know about Built Bar, and their new product is Built Go. It helps you break through that midday wall that you might be hitting on a daily basis. I know I do. I have my morning coffee, and right around noon, 1 o'clock, the coffee wears off, and you need something to kind of get you through the rest of the workday, and that is where Built Go can come into the fold. Whether it's a mental or physical wall, break through it with Go every day. Easy to take in a 1.5 ounce pouch. You can put it in your briefcase, in your desk. Really easy to tow along with you, and you can put it right in your pocket. Built Go is the best workout gel on the market. You can take it before a workout, get you through maybe a treadmill run. It's a 5-hour energy without the same crash feeling. Plus, it is natural, so it's better for your body. It's like drinking a Monster drink with 1/3 of the caffeine and better results. Comes in 3 delicious flavors: peanut butter honey, chocolate coconut, and chocolate mint. So you can go to builtgo.com and use the promo code LOCKED, and you'll get 20% off of your next order. Once again, that promo code is LOCKED, and 20% comes off of your order at builtgo.com. Okay, so like I said, Jeremy Minton, I believe is how to pronounce his last name. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Jeremy, but sent me an email and he threw 3 pretty good questions in there, which we will tackle right now. We've been talking about the expansion drafts on occasion, talked about it last week. And when I had Ryan Clark on, by the way, if you have not gone and listened to those episodes, those are from last week. Ryan Clark came on. We did 3 episodes worth of conversation. And one of the things we talked about was because he's going to Seattle to cover the Kraken for the Athletic. And one of the things that we talked about was the Kraken and, their expectations for next year and who they might be picking from the Avalanche when it comes to expansion draft time. And he was in agreement with me that the Kraken, I don't want to say most likely, but maybe the higher percentage is them going for a defender on the Avs. The Avs are loaded at defense right now, and they're loaded on defense in the minors and spread across different leagues. So could the Kraken go in any direction? Absolutely. But because Ryan kind of said the same thing I was and how he thinks they might go Graves or Taves, Jeremy asked the question. He said, could the Avs pull up someone from the minors with the intention of playing them just enough games to make them available in the Seattle draft? And then he says this would be to protect Graves or Taves. So the deal with that, yeah, you could bring up somebody, but they have to play a minimum amount of games. And from my understanding, this works the same way for this expansion as it did for the Vegas expansion, which that player has to play 40 games in the most recent season or 70 total in the past 2. So if you're bringing somebody up, they're playing half the season to be eligible for that Seattle draft. And if you're like, the intent on that is to bring them up to make them eligible for the Kraken to take. Seattle's probably not going to take a guy like that. He's not really proven. Seattle will have a pool of players to pick from the Avalanche, and a guy you just bring up to play 40 games to throw into the draft, they're going to ignore him immediately and pick somebody more relevant to them. This wouldn't really protect Graves or Taves because you would still have to, I guess it could protect one or the other, but you still might have to put one of them up because the way that it works is you can either do 7-3-1, which is 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and a goalie, or 8 skaters and a goalie. So if you were to do the 7-3-1, or if you did the 8 skaters, you could do it that way. But then you're not going to be able to protect guys on the front line. You're not going to be able to protect, Kadri, maybe Burakovsky. You're not going to be able to protect specific guys if you do the 8 skaters. If you do the 7-3-1, you're still going to have to probably give up one of those guys, because on your defense, if Eric Johnson does not want to let go of that trade clause, then you have to keep him. That is part of the rule. Something moving around. It'd be Johnson, definitely Makar, and then who's your third one? Is it is it Gerard? Is it Graves or Taves? One of those guys are not being protected in that scenario. So it wouldn't really do any good for a number of reasons to bring someone up just to have them play enough games for the Seattle draft. And number one, you have to play the guy 40 games. And on a team that is expected to compete for a title, that's not with a unproven prospect in mind. So I don't think that's going to happen. Second, he asked, could they protect that odd man out, Graves or Taves, with a 4th round draft pick or something? So I went to Ryan and I asked him, I said, I've been hearing things about draft picks being traded, and he directed me to a guy that writes for the Athletic who wrote about it when Minnesota did this with the Vegas draft. And at the time, it was risky and I think they were taking a calculated risk that didn't work for them. So what the Wild did, because the Wild were in this kind of in a similar situation the Avalanche are in. The Avalanche have a good amount of players, and they know they're going to lose one of them. They're going to lose a good player. Minnesota was coming off of a good season, and they had they had a really good roster, and they didn't want to really part with any of them. So what they did was they had an agreement with Vegas. Let me I want to get the names 100% right. If I can look it up quickly, I don't know if I can. So they had, I don't have the names in front of me. I apologize for that, but Minnesota had a deal in place with Vegas where they were forcing them to pick player A. I wish I could remember who it was. So we'll just call him player A, and he's a prospect. And then they said, if you take him as your expansion pick from our team, we'll also make a trade with you where we will send you a second prospect who happened to be a first round pick. And let me see who it was. Actually, I got it. I know actually, because I'm talking to Ryan about it. So it should be in our conversation. Give me 1 second. So, okay. So it was Eric Hola and Alex Took. So Minnesota said, take Hola, and then we will make a deal. Take him in the expansion part of the draft, and we will make a deal with you where we will send you Alex Tuck for a third round pick in either in 2017 or 18. So they basically forced Vegas's hand on who they were going to take from Minnesota, with the caveat of, here's a second player and just give us a draft pick back. 2 prospects they were given. They didn't take anybody from their main NHL squad. Kind of risky, but they must have weighed the options, and they didn't really like, they were willing to part with those 2 players, and it has pretty much backfired on Minnesota. I don't know. I don't want to say that's the sole reason why they have kind of fallen, but Alex Tuck has turned out to be a really good player. You could do something like that. And would the Avalanche go down that road? It depends on who Vegas would want from their prospect pool. We know Joe Sakic does not like to really part with these guys. He picked these guys for a reason, and he is like, ride or die with them. So I would lean towards no, this not happening than it would happen. But again, it would depend on who Seattle would be asking for in terms of prospects. But I don't think they'll do it, because they're just going to look at Minnesota and say it did not work for them. I get why Minnesota did it. And they, this is a situation that no teams have been in since the year 2000, when Columbus came into the league, and they had to do this way back then. But it was different back then. That was a different expansion draft. This was something new. So they tried something new and it didn't work. So I think if the Avalanche were to do it, they might do it a different way than the way Minnesota did it, because it backfired for Minnesota. Now, if the Avalanche are going to give up players that they know really aren't going to make it, even if they do make it and play well, they're not hurt, because they have a very good pool of prospects. So it could happen. I don't see it happening, but it definitely could happen, because the Avalanche have a ton of prospects. And again, it would all depend on who Seattle would want. So the third question he asks is, are the Avalanche physical enough to compete with the tougher teams? That remains to be seen. We lost some muscle with Zadorov. That can't be denied. And that doesn't really leave the Avs have guys that will get in and scrum, now it's on the forward end. Now it's Kadri and even McKinnon. On the blue line, Makar's not afraid, and he'll get in there and he'll mix it up. Gerard doesn't. Graves, He will if you test him, but he's not that type of guy that's looking for, to go make contact with guys like Zadorov. You don't have a Zadorov anymore. So it remains to be seen if the Avs will be able to compete. They'll be able to compete day in and day out, clearly. But with those really like tough, grinding, Dallas Star teams, do they have guys that can then put up hits like they're going to get from Dallas? We'll see. We'll see, because that is a very good question, and they don't have that bruising guy anymore. I don't think they do, and like I said, I think it's a very real question. Guys like McKinnon, they can definitely hold their own. Nathan McKinnon is built. He is a built human, and he can hold his own. But you don't want your superstar being the muscle of your team. That's not what superstars do. You don't want him being the muscle of your team each and every game. You want him scoring and flying up and down the ice. You don't want him being in a checking game every single day. That's just, the more he takes on that role, the more likely he is to get injured. Clearly, that's not what you want. He plays rough, and he's going to continue to play a tough, mean, physical game, but that's not the style of him that's at the forefront of his game. And the more he does that, and I don't think the Avalanche are asking him to play that type of game, but you don't want him to be your bruiser. And the more he does that, the more likely he is to get injured. Ron Burgundy said it. It's science. You play that type of game, chances are you might get hurt and miss a game here and there, not be out for the season, but they can't afford that with him. He needs to be out there every single day. So hope that answered some of your questions, Jeremy, but if anybody else has anything they want to throw in to the email box, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com, we'll get them on the air. So, all right, we got one more thing to discuss in the NHL season as a whole. But before we get to that, talked about Built Go. Now we're going to talk about Built Bar. We've talked about Built Bar many times. It is the best tasting energy and nutrition protein bar on the market. Tastes more like a candy bar than an energy bar. It's incredibly healthy, covered in 100% chocolate, soft and easy to chew. Like I said, they taste more like a candy bar. It's great for the health conscious guy or girl. Lose or maintain weight while indulging in a delicious treat. Bars are low calorie, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, great for the keto diet. And most bars have 19 grams of protein, 180 calories, 5 grams of sugar, 5 grams of net carbs. Some of the flavors available are caramel brownie, cookies and cream, lemon almond cheesecake, carrot cake, peanut butter, banana bread, mint brownie. List goes on and on. Go to builtbar.com right now. Enter the promo code Locked On, and 20% comes off of your next order. Once again, that promo code is Locked On, and 20% comes off of your first order at builtbar.com. Finally, we're getting slow dribs and drabs of what's going on with the 2020-2021 season, which probably is just going to be the 2021 season, but they'll label it as the 2020-2021 season because we are definitely not playing any hockey before January 1st. And Gary Bettman came out and kind of gave a little bit more detail of what the league is looking into, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a very, very interesting season, to say the least. So this is from NHL.com. It says the NHL is exploring short-term hubs, temporary realignment, and a reduced schedule as options for next season amid the coronavirus pandemic. Commissioner Bettman said he would never ask players to return to a bubble for an entire season. So we know that's not going to happen. I didn't think it would. That'd be way too much to ask all those guys to be away from their families and homes for that amount of time. So we know that's not going to happen. He said the league is exploring teams playing in their own arenas with or without fans, depending on the local situation. in hubs or in hybrid systems. So like other leagues are doing, it's going to be different per state. Some states that maybe are doing better than others with the coronavirus might allow a certain amount of fans. Others, probably none. And that will be a fluid situation. I think as the season goes on and the coronavirus hopefully gets cleared up, obviously they'll lighten the reins on that. Any plan would be a collaborative effort between the NHL and the NHLPA. Where else? If teams play in hubs, they will rotate in and out. So Bettman says you'll play for 10 to 12 days. You'll play a bunch of games without traveling. You'll go back home. You'll go home for a week, be with your family. We'll have our testing protocols and all other things you need. It's not going to be quite as effective as a bubble, but we think we can, if we go this route, minimize the risk to the external, practical and sensible, to the extent practical and sensible. So that's one of the things we're talking about. So I think the NHL is kind of aware that we have to try to be as safe as possible. NHL got through their playoffs and Stanley Cup final unscathed, no positive tests. Clearly they want to have no positive tests during the course of a season, but the way things are setting up, I think it's inevitable. Guys here and there are going to pop positive. It's happening in every single league. It's almost inevitable. It's going to happen, but they want to try to minimize it. And their way of minimizing it is we're going to have our protocols in place to take tests, go to a city, and you are there for over a week, up to 2 weeks, and keep them there. And then after that, then you get to go home, stay home for a little while, and then you go to another city for 1 to 2 weeks. It's an interesting method. And like he's saying, we want to be as effective as possible. That might be the best way to do it. Now everybody's talking about the Canadian factor in all of this. He says, where is this? Include the closure to non-essential travel to the United States-Canadian border. Obviously, we're not going to move all 7 Canadian franchises south of the 49th parallel. And so we have to look at alternative ways to play. And while crossing the U.S.-Canadian border is an issue, we're also seeing within the United States limitations in terms of quarantining when you go from certain states to other states. It's, again, part of having to be flexible. So, and then he gets into travel, and then they get into viewership from the playoffs last year and how it dipped a little bit and all the things that come into play. So it's a good article, but the beginning part of that is kind of like what people are kind of like looking for right now and getting some info. And the Canadian side of things really throws a wrench into it. And like he said in the very end, it's about being flexible. So I don't know how they're going to figure out that Canadian side of things, but I thought we'd kind of get answers before November. We're in the first couple weeks of November right now, but that doesn't mean that they're not talking. Clearly they're talking about it. It's just things have changed in the world. The numbers for the virus keep going up. So I think the plan that they had initially maybe hasn't gone away, but it's changed. But man, I think if we're going to have hockey on or around January 1st, we're going to need to know pretty quick, because, you'd have to kind of know before December starts, wouldn't you? Because all these guys got to get back, do some training camp, and kind of get into hockey shape as best they can to start a season. The season might not be an 82-game season. And we were hoping we didn't have to go down this road again with, the following year, but here we are. And, we might have to suck it up in terms of watching hockey in a different way for this next season. We're definitely going to start that way. And you hate to say even, well, hopefully for next season, the season after the one that's coming up, things get back into normalcy, but I guess we just have to do one thing at a time right now. But it seems like we will get hockey, which I guess is the bottom line, other than obviously people staying safe. You don't want to see anybody getting positive. But we will have hockey in some capacity, and we'll just have to play it by ear. So that is going to be it for today, everybody. If it's the first time tuning in, thank you. If you've been tuning in since the beginning, I thank you just the same. And definitely check out Locked On NHL I talk about what's going on in the league wide every once in a while. Check on Locked On NHL every day, especially today on Thursday when me and Adam from Locked On Lightning host it. And we'll talk about anything going on around the league. So that's going to be it. Thank you guys for tuning in today and each and every day. Stay safe out there.